Paul Barron. Welcome back to Tech Path. Let's get into it today. Of course, as we all know, the Doge NASCAR. I was just shown this video as a perfect wreck in terms of a crash into the wall and then coming across sideways, which is where I think the coin is and the token is today in terms of whether or not the trend is going to continue for the Doge army and where it's going to trend out to. But I want to get into some of the things that could be causing kind of the position of this token and also could be giving us some signs of life. And I'll break into both of those. But before we get started, let's take a quick look at CoinMarketCap, see where Doge is at today. And of course, as you guys all know, it had seen about a 17-cent low, hovering in around 19 cents right there. You can kind of see this 7-day. Let's jump over to the 1-day. Up and down off the basement right here. 16 cents. Looks like it had hovered in at the 16-cent range twice over the past 24 hours. So interesting movement here with Doge. The question is will this sustain and really what is causing this sudden vacation of the Dogecoin out from the Doge army? That's really kind of the question I want to kind of get into. And one of the things that I want to jump to this story on SlashGear quickly. And it was basically Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin price drops with China power chops. Let me zoom in on this. This is kind of the focus of this. Government officials cutting power to cryptocurrency mining operations on Monday morning, resulting in immediate price drop for the coin and related currency. This is the latest in a line of similar targeted operations in China aimed at cutting down mining operations throughout the country in the year 2021. So officials suggested that this year, the cracking down on crypto mining is aimed at bringing the country closer to an environmental goals and a significant amount of energy used and continues to be generated by coal power stations. However, we know that this is excellent FUD by the Chinese People's Republic because this is really all about the digital yuan and where it's going and its ability to try to take center stage as a world global currency. That's really the domino and the chess play that it is in play here. It's going to be interesting to watch if other countries start to move into creating their own digital currency and moving quick enough. Question will be countries like Russia or others, could they go into that level of impending, I won't call it FUD on their own, in their own population, but it definitely starts to control. And if you look at some of the countries out there that are going in this direction, that's kind of where we see this moving. And of course, that is one of the reasons why we see all the coin miners essentially starting to migrate out of these somewhat dirty countries in the sense of dirty power and into more renewable positions for mining. So it's going to be interesting to watch. I want to jump over here to a Dogecoin price prediction. Doge eyes 1950. Of course, we know that had already been surpassed if the key 100 DMA support caves in, which it did. Dogecoin, of course, breaks below the key support on the daily chart. You can kind of see the May 19 flash crash lows remain the seller's radars. And I think this is just kind of the historic element of where the Doge army has been through and what you have been through. When you look at this story, sellers refuse to give up. The bearish momentum extends into the 5th consecutive day on Saturday. This was back on the 6/19. Doge price is looking to break its 11-day range to play the downside as investor interest and the canine-inspired coin keeps diminishing. The sluggish price action could be likely associated with the absence of tweets from, of course, Elon. And we all know kind of how that has flown. When you look at the testing the key support as technical setup, there's an interesting statement here. The daily hour chart shows that the price remains confined within a narrow range, the horizontal 21-day moving average, the DMA, 33 cents, limiting the bulls. Meanwhile, the upward sloping 100 DMA is at 26. So they kind of guarded the downside. However, should the selling pressure intensify, which it did, the ascending 200 DMA line of defense at 14.7 could come to the rescue. That's kind of the last point of no return on Doge, and it got very close to it today in the sense that, or if we're watching this video in the future here, of course, during this micro crash. But that's where I think what we have to look at is it at the bottom, and because the question you're asking right now, is it the right time for me to exit? If you were in early on Doge, hopefully you've already taken profits percentages. You know, if you're doing like me, where you do 25% at a time on both a rise, which is the only time you're taking selling coin, is when it's on its rise. If it's on its fall, there's a reason that you're getting out. If it's just that you don't have the price tolerance or the investment tolerance for any kind of crypto asset, that's fine. Nothing wrong with that, and you should be doing that. Just as a reminder, on any of these market movers like this, not investment advice. We of course compile a lot of these stories, give you guys some data to support our findings, and then hopefully the idea is it drives you into looking down a new rabbit hole to understand really what your investment is about. So he concluded in this story, downside appears more compelling for Doge, which it was, amid the bearish RSI and the lower highs formed so far, and that was on Saturday. So this particular analyst was pretty close on of where this was going over on FX Street. I want to also drop over into this analysis, which is the one that I think is interesting, by Egil Lopin. And Egil basically took a look at Dogecoin and looked at where this was moving. So again, it moved lower overnight. The support was rejected, which is the 21-cent support. And of course, that hit the lower down. Dogecoin analysis is bullish for today, as the market retraced by 20% since midnight. Therefore, we expected the Doge to further downside around 21. It hit the 16 and retest the 25 mark over the next 25. So the question is whether or not we will see the movement. So here's the thing. Price movement in the last 24 hours traded in a range of 21.5 to 28.97, indicating a huge volatility. Price action over the last 24 hours. If you look at the 4-hour chart, the spike's lower, which is where we are currently, and this is exactly what happened during this sell-off. And unfortunately, hopefully it was not on the panic sellers inside Doge. For those of you who are invested in Doge, the likelihood is you got in very early, or maybe you're in the 20 range. The question is whether or not this is going to bounce. The key here, I think, is once we get past this China FUD and kind of this imposing scenario that we're seeing on cryptocurrency, and I think we're going to see a lot of new information coming out that's going to really start to give us a lot more understanding of the chess plays that are in play that have a lot of effect on these altcoins, because as you know, Ethereum and Bitcoin, of course, have been affected heavily on how this is moving. And this is no different in the case of Doge. I want to jump to a chart here that we pulled up a couple of days ago that we were analyzing an analysis on Weibo. And Weibo is, we did this on Bitcoin as well. Basically what we looked at was China's move on banning Bitcoin. And of course, what does it do in terms of the social networks in China? And this is the Weibo social network, which is basically the Facebook for China. And we looked at Doge, the Doge sentiment. And if you look back here on this date, which was in June, you know, right around June 3rd, all the way over to around June 4th, sentiment had held pretty strong in its down period. And of course, that was from one of our highs at about 43 cents on Doge. And sentiment held on at 61.59. Not a bad sentiment. In fact, anything over a 55 is a really positive sentiment. Obviously, the coin went sideways. We saw the dip, which a lot of people really thought this was the new low right here. And then we saw some movement back up. And again, but here's the thing. Once that China started putting out that they were banning crypto mining, and then eventually rolled out the scenario of actually restricting trade on crypto assets through their OTC markets, this is where sentiment started falling off quickly. And I do believe that the Chinese market had a lot to do with this period right here that we're seeing in terms of these flash crashes. And additionally, I think a lot of these kinds of sentiment moves that we're seeing in the major coins such as Bitcoin and Ethereum, same kind of scenario. We are seeing an onslaught of FUD and bad news for Bitcoin and all crypto assets that I think are really causing some pressure in terms of the downslide for some of these projects. And if you kind of look at where Doge is right now, this is the live chart. of where it kind of bounces off the bottom and is hanging around that 20-cent range. Here's the thing to me that is still surprising, and that is if you look at Doge in general, the surprise to me is that this is a meme coin. We all know that. It is a coin that is not designed with fundamentals or maybe a real mission, at least not yet. You never know what could happen in the developing months or years around Doge, especially if projects get moving on it outside of the Elon Musk bubble. If this could ever become anything outside in the DeFi space, then of course Doge has some opportunity to kind of move sideways and or do some other great positive things other than being a meme coin and kind of just an investment instrument here for people who are looking to play the market. But when you look at a coin like this, a meme coin, that's been able to hold against what I think could be the biggest FUD we've ever faced in, and I say we, in the Bitcoin community, and in the cryptocurrency and digital asset community. This is the biggest FUD that we've ever faced, and that is China. Because in 2017, it was like, hey, China's banning, all that was in and out. I think China was testing the waters with both the population, the global center stage, and the digital yuan was not ready. Now, too many things are in place. China has pulled the trigger, and this is no longer a false flag. This is a full-on move for China to move against cryptocurrency in a big way. The question is going to be, will another major country make a move? And that's the question, because if we had another major country like maybe Russia or even Iran or others that could try to go in and either one, go after a digital currency model and try to basically I won't call it, just circumvent the idea of where digital assets and cryptocurrency is going. That will be the big question, because if Bitcoin or any other or all cryptocurrencies and digital assets took another hit like this, that could be bad news. It definitely would push the crypto markets into what I think would be the bearish cycle for this period of time, and that would be something that is going to be interesting to watch. El Salvador, I don't think, is big enough of a country to make this much of a move. Sure, it's an interesting sidebar conversation, not to say El Salvador is a sidebar country, but it doesn't have the global stage that many of these countries have, such as China, who has caused some pretty good havoc here within the crypto markets for sure. The question is, what else is coming? Or are we past that stage and it was able to be resilient and hold its way out? And maybe Doge is on its way back. That will be the question. And as I mentioned earlier, the key here, if you're staying in Doge and you're looking at maybe a new, maybe a new entry price, or maybe it's a scenario where you've been holding from, 3 cents and you're looking for an exit price. The key there is, again, just take your profits percentage-wise on the way up as it starts to pull out, which it appears it has a little bit of sign of recovery here. Maybe this is the time that you start to slowly migrate out of the meme coin and into something else, maybe like Bitcoin or Ethereum or another altcoin. Or for the Doge army, maybe this is the time of accumulation, and this is the time you have to really start to play into the market and see it move. If you're listening in over the podcast, make sure and subscribe. That's one of the best ways we can get data from you and understanding what you want to hear and what you want to see here on the channel. And if you have an idea for a show, you can send us a note, which is just producer@revernetworks.com. Always, if you're on YouTube, make sure and subscribe to the channel. Share the content. It's the best way you can help us, help the YouTube algorithms. Make sure and smash the like button. And of course, hit me up directly right there on Twitter @Paul Barron. I'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.